seems like every local in the valley here has a mountain bike. This sport is really exploding.
I break the law. I ride a legal trip.
And it's getting away from the cops, the cars, the concrete.
The fucker is a Chinese Italian.
Skiers and snowboarders together on a run, you're looking for trouble. You know, they get on skis and they just think they can overcome the world.
The more you go around, the more you're going to find out.
I like to think that death is out of the question.
The life starts at 40 miles an hour.
You ride the chairlift for 2 or 3 weekends and you have to go like climb hills all week just to be even with God, you know.
Welcome to Mind the Track with Powbot and Trail Whisperer. Ramblings from the skin track in winter, single track in summer, celebrating the core lords, and fostering the culture of mountain life in the Sierra Nevada and Great Basin. Today is December 17th, 2023, and you're listening to episode number 28. By the way, thanks for listening, folks. Help spread the word. Leave Mind the Track a rating and review, and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and now YouTube. Got feedback or a core lord we should chat with? Drop us a line at mindthetrackpodcast@gmail.com, at mindthetrack on Instagram, or just go to our website at mindthetrack.com and let us know what you think of the show. And if you like what you're hearing, leave us a rating and review. It helps us get discovered, and it helps this show get into the ears of more listeners. We are recording this evening from the festive holiday household of Kerswan Johnsonheimer along the Truckee River here in Verdi. Aside me is the always professor of the pow wearing his mistletoe sweater shirt thing. I love it.
This was my addition to an ugly sweater.
And I've got my 60s vintage Swiss hand-sewn silk thing that
you're looking very
like
German.
Half ugly sweater, half kind of cool vintage sweater, maybe. I don't know. People see it and they go, "Is that really an ugly sweater? It looks kind of neat." I'm like, I don't know. Some people think it's ugly. I think it's warm. I can tell you that much.
You're looking like a Thin Mint.
Oh, Thin Mint. A German Thin Mint?
A German Thin Mint.
What's German for Thin Mint? I gotta look that up. I should know that. But yeah, we are here this evening with our first return guest. We had him on the show, episode 11, way back in our youth when we were first, newly minted podcasters.
We were on a run of recording inside of your RV.
We were, yeah. It was like we were like homeless podcasters. We were just like in the back of the Sunraider.
We've moved into the living room now.
Yeah, now we're in the living room. We kicked Swan John out. Swan John's been relegated to the bedroom. Thank you, Swan John.
Yeah, thanks, Swan John. Yeah, we have a repeat offender. It's our first one.
Jake Mann is back. Jake Mann is back.
Welcome back, Jake Mann.
Hey, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
You made it back from your grand summer adventure.
Yeah, me and the bike both made it back. It was
in one piece.
One piece. A couple of broken pieces along the way, but I'm sure we'll get into that.
And was it all downhill on the way back?
Not quite. It was a short car ride, though.
Yeah, that's the funniest part about doing like a big bike adventure. You like take all these weeks, months to get to this one spot, and then you're back in 12 hours. You're like, shit, man, that was like a quick trip. Like,
it's a trip for sure.
Yeah, I think you mentioned today that you had to come back to Truckee for a wedding at one point. It had taken you 28 days to get up there, and then it took you 28 hours to come back on the train.
Yep, it was kind of a reality check. I was like, wow, you know what? I did see everything in between at a slower speed and got to experience the land and all the mountains and volcanoes in between. But yeah, it was not demoralizing, but in that realm of things, I would say.
So how many days were you on the bike this summer?
June 3rd until the last days of August. I was living on my bike in a tent, being a very smelly man, eating a boatload of calories.
How many people did you think you offended with your smell?
Oh, any store that I walked into, that's for sure.
Was it like, and it's kind of like when someone gets a whiff of skunk, they're like, Did you see anyone do that?
Yeah, a couple fell over too, and they were just right on.
Passed out.
Yeah.
So I'll share with you the one and only bikepacking trip I went on was down the Lost Coast, which I think I mentioned on your last pod. But it was on that trip that we had stopped over at the Honeydew store, which is in the middle of nowhere in NorCal. And when we walked into the store, the woman that owned it got out a can of Lysol.
Oh my God.
And started spraying it around the store while we were in there. And
That's a sign.
I looked at one of my buddies and I was like, we just got Lysoled in Honeydew. And like, there's a grip of like crusty weed growers that live up in that zone that have to smell worse than we did. But we got Lysoled.
I didn't get Lysoled this summer, unfortunately.
Okay, good.
I could have used it though.
Well, we're going to get into your trip in detail. But before we do, we should run through a few things. Definitely let's start with some shout outs.
Yeah.
The last few weeks, since we had our Downeyville episode, we've had a lot of great feedback.
I got some good feedback at the slideshow I did.
Oh, yeah. How did your slideshow go?
Slideshow went good.
Nice.
Good stories, good laughs, some good photos. Yeah, for a first attempt at it, I think I did okay.
You're going to take it on the road? Do some more venues? Step it up?
I don't know about that, but maybe if we take Mind the Track on the road, we can.
Yeah, there you go.
We should do that at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it went good, but I got some good shout outs from some people there that are fully enjoying the pod.
Nice. Yeah, I had a few people. This one guy, Jed Ritchie, who I've ridden with once before, he's got a crew from Marin that comes up to Downeyville all the time and has listened to all the episodes. And I guess he also is a fan of my riding back when I was the Angry Single Speeder. So thanks, Jed, for reading and listening and being a supporter. He recommended that we interview Todd Barber. And Todd is a core lord. He was the founder of the Red Bull Rampage. And he lives here in Tahoe. Well, he spends a lot of time up here. But he also, back in the day, started the Squaw Valley Mountain Bike Festival, which was like the Fat Tire Festival, which was kind of the predecessor before the Red Bull Rampage. So that was a great recommendation, Jed. Thanks for that. We'll definitely be putting on Todd on the short list. Had another friend reach out. This is a funny story. So my friend James Brumfield, who lives here in the neighborhood, he and his wife were driving in the car, and their kids were in the back seat, and they were listening to the show. And James is like, the kids aren't paying it. They're in the back seat. They're not paying attention.
They don't care about a couple of schmucks talking about bikes and snowboards.
No, they're not. Yeah, they don't care, right? And so they're listening to the Downeyville episode, and James says, suddenly from the back seat of the car, I hear, "Dad, what's a cocaine bear?" He's like, "Oh, great, thanks. Now I got to have that conversation with my kids." So thanks, James, for that shout out. Nate Hansen, who works for Patagonia, he's brought a couple crews of Patagonia employees out to our trail days to do trail work. He recommended that we interview this guy, Tom Carter, who innovated this. Have you ever heard of the Red Line Traverse?
Oh, yeah. A couple people redid it last year.
Yeah, right. They did a short film about it or something. Yeah, so Nate recommended Tom, so I've got his number. He was also a heli guide in the Rubies for 30 years.
Rubies off and running.
Yeah, so he'd be a good interview to just get to know more about the Red Line Traverse and the Ruby Mountains and that whole operation. Joe Neckles, I haven't met him in person yet, but he lives here in town, and he said one of his reviews, thank you for reviewing and giving us a positive review, Joe, said, the past 3 to 4 episodes have been some of the best podcast episodes on all things Tahoe I've ever listened to. So thanks. Thank you. We're trying to make it as Tahoe-y as we can, man. Represent the place.
Cocaine bears and all.
Yeah, well, that was like, if that bear had eaten that poor woman in Tahoe, that would have made national news.
I can't believe that story did not make national news.
I can't believe it either. I can't
That's
believe
what a couple
either.
people mentioned to me when they reached out on the pod. They're like, how didn't we not know about that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. One other shout out that I thought this was an interesting one. A guy, his name's Topher. He bought a Make Downeyville Gold Again hat from me, and we were chatting, and he's like, yeah, I found the podcast. I've been listening to it. It's awesome. I love it. I was like, how'd you find it? And he goes, it was suggested to me. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, what other outdoor podcasts do you listen to? And he's like, none. And I'm like, none? He goes, no, I don't listen to any. You're the only one. I'm like, oh, that's weird. The algorithms, dude.
We got the algorithm.
The algorithms
on
are
our side.
I guess so.
They know that we're using AI to get the snow report.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Oh, man. AI is going to take over. We might as well just
wrap this up
because AI is just going to take over the show pretty soon. So
it already knows probably more about skiing and biking than we do.
Probably.
I don't know about that.
Have you ever asked?
I don't know. I'll do that. I'll have to ask Snoop if AI knows more about the stuff that we know.
Yeah, on the topic of the bear situation in Downeyville that we talked about on the last episode, there was another bear incident in Sierra County. This time it was in Calpine. This was a few days ago. A bear attacked a man in his backyard, bit him on the arm and the hand and the leg, and
he shot it.
The dude ran into his house, got a shotgun, and shot the bear and wounded it, and then Fish and Wildlife showed up and killed it. But it attacked his dog and then attacked him. So it's real out there.
That was only a short bear nap after we recorded the Downhill episode that happened.
Yeah, that was a few days after.
And then have you seen on the socials, there's been 2 incidents in South Lake this week of a bear running across the middle of the White Ribbon of Death.
I did see that, the bear and the White Ribbon of Death.
Yeah. And then there was another one. There was I think a mom and 2 cubs. I don't think it was on the White Ribbon of Death, but I think it was underneath the chair.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one too, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's been a bear active week in these parts.
Well, it hasn't snowed enough yet. They're not, I don't think they're hibernated fully yet because they're it's still kind of...
They're still out trying to shred the brown paddle like we are. Yeah. They're like, bike season's not over yet.
Yeah.
You know what? Then I'm ready for the bears to hibernate.
I am too.
I really am.
Yeah.
I'm tired of riding a bike.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I got a little taste of it last week. It was a week ago that we got that one little surprise storm. Mm-hmm. And it overproduced, and there was actually some good turns to be had if you knew where to go.
Yeah.
There was some good skiing.
Well, on that topic, what's it looking like?
What's it looking like?
Yeah.
So, Snoop, I reached out to Snoop the other week, and he had given us a report, but then he had to bag it because we canceled an episode.
Oh,
and so then he just kind of he merged basically a little bit of last week's report with now, because things have changed a little bit.
Okay.
I think. So are we ready to get into it?
I think we should.
Snoop called in this morning with a fresh, hot report.
Let's serve it up then.
Right.
Fresh and hot.
Let's see here. Where do I find that?
I thought you had him on speed dial.
I do.
Okay.
Well, I had to speed dial, and then he recorded it.
Oh, right.
This is freshly
pre-recorded.
This is pre-recorded fresh this morning.
It's in front of a live studio audience.
For all you core lords out there, this is Snoop Powderrific with the weekly Mime Z-Track Snow Sizzle, my Dizzle Powderrific Snow Report for the week of December 17, 2023. Okay. Hopefully all you core lords out there was able to get some from that last surprise storm. Snoop Powderrific loves a storm that overproduces, and be a chill pod baller if you know where to find that shiznit. I had most of this report written out for last week, but you slackers had to cancel your pod. Luckily, not much has changed overall for any baller forecast for power. The power train has been tracking up down to Alaska and possibly parts of the Southwest for this week, and leaving the entire west side high and dry.
New Mexico's
ass ever
actually
hear of a
getting
really
some.
resilient ridge. The bitch has been back, and her big-ass booty shizzle has been set up off the coast of California, and it's as ugly as a lowrider with bald tires trying to get over Donner Summit in a snowstorm, and Snoop Dogg don't jive with ugly high-pressure ridges, nor spun-out low riders. What's mostly been going down for Pow up in the west side lately is zilch, nil, nodding, zip, piddly squat, upkeys. Basically, jack squat. All the powder core lords up in the West Side United Hoods have been tripping off some sunny days searching for stale backcountry pow, riding groomers and bikes, and keep religiously reading the open snow forecast every last motherfucking morning wishing for a crizzle miracle under the tree. Everyone better start busting the crib pow walk dance and start busting sacrifices up at Julie cause we need it to happen. The good news is that the dry spell we have been cursed with is ending this week. And some warm-ass storms are trying to push the straight-up, really resilient, lame-ass ridge out of the way so that some tastier chronic storms can make their way into the west side, Mammoth, and the higher terrain of the Sierras could be turning on at some point later midweek after this first series of storms moves through. After that, this Pow Dog is gonna be locked and loaded and ready to navigate a gang-banging, finger-licking, dirty-ass shiznit pile of snow and buried tourists up in Tahoe as it might get real. Till next report, get some.
All right. Wow, that's a mouthful.
Dude, that's Snoop's laying it down, man.
He's getting into this. He's never been more interested in snow in his life, I bet.
Yeah, I think he's a certified POW addict.
It seems that way. Yeah, it seems that way. All right.
I mean, you don't. I mean, people don't even need to really go to any other weather sources other than the Snoop report once a week.
Yeah,
he just lays it down.
He doesn't mess around. I like that bald tires over low rider with bald tires in a snowstorm on Donner Summit.
Can't you just? I have a vision of that happening. I think it pretty much happens every storm now.
Oh yeah. But they're like Teslas with bald tires. Yeah.
It's the electric version of a lowrider.
Right, yeah, an electric lowrider. Yeah, well, the weather's been a little disappointing for snow, anyway, around here. But, there was one other... I don't know if it's weather. It's maybe weather related, but a strange story that I came across was I don't know if you saw this, like thousands and thousands of dead fish washed up on the shore of Japan. Did you hear about this one?
I did not.
Yeah, so it's like sardines and mackerels and all these fish were washing up dead near Hokkaido, which is an island on the north of Japan, and scientists said that the best logical explanation they could give for it was either the fish were avoiding predators like dolphin or warming ocean temperatures. And so, of course, my first reaction is like Hunga Tonga, man. It's deep sea ocean temps. It's Hunga Tonga. And so one of our listeners, Daniel Edelstein, who has actually sent us a few articles about Hunga Tonga and like from scientists, like is this whole Hunga Tonga thing like with weather for real? And it was interesting, these articles he sent, I read through them. And this guy was a climate scientist at Texas A&M, and he has this blog called The Climate Brink, and he talks about, is Hunga Tonga affecting weather around the world? And in a short answer, not at all, no. And I was a little disappointed because he said like the climate deniers are saying that Hunga Tonga is, and I'm like, dude, I'm not a climate denier. I'm just saying there was this huge thing that happened, right? And maybe it has an effect on the weather. And so he goes through and explains why Hunga Tonga has not had effect on like global air temperatures. Like, so, like the heat wave that we had this last summer, it's not attributed to Hunga Tonga because it blew all of the water vapor and and gases up into the upper stratosphere, like way out into space. So it didn't really like act as like a blanket over, the atmosphere to trap in the heat. But what he didn't address though was the undersea temperatures. Remember we were talking with BA and he was talking about how the ocean temps right now, especially deep down, are like super warm. He didn't address that. So it's like, what, again, it goes back to like what could cause, right, like crazy deep undersea temperature swing, like an increase in such a short amount of time. Perhaps the biggest undersea explosion in recorded history, right? Like stuff like that. So,
or continued volcanic activity in the Pacific Rim.
So there was a volcanic eruption that happened like a month or two ago off the coast of Iwo Jima, which is not far from Japan, and it actually created a new island. And so I was thinking, well, maybe that's what killed those fish, right? Like, who knows? Like, it's not that far from Japan, and the way like ocean currents run, like maybe it pushed like those like toxic gases towards Japan. Who knows? I don't know. I don't even know why I brought this stuff up. Like,
anything that relates to Hunga Tonga, I'm in on.
Right? I just like saying Hunga Tonga, and I'm looking for excuses to say Hunga Tonga. So there you go.
Jake, do you believe in Hunga Tonga?
Oh, of course. I mean, there's no other explanation for the phenomenon that's going on.
Well, yeah. Anyway, one other story that I wanted to mention that I thought was interesting before we jump into Jake's adventures was Reno, Nevada has among the lowest homeless rate in America right now. They have reduced their homeless population by something like 60% in the last 18 months. And it's really interesting. The city has figured out, they've adopted this program. I can't remember the name of it, but the program basically like identifies every single homeless person by name and their circumstances, and they know everyone on the street, and they figure out a way to get them housed. And so this has had a pretty big effect, like positively, on getting people off the street. And they built this like giant, it's like one of those huge outdoor tents, right? A huge tent that's sealed, and then they have these little like living pods, and they're putting people in these living pods, and it's working.
It's been super successful.
It's been super successful, and like that has always been my biggest concern with Reno as Reno grows. It's like what's going to happen with because you look at Sacramento and San Francisco and Portland and Seattle, the homeless situation in these cities, Los Angeles, it's just untenable, man. It's terrible. And Reno has managed to avoid that. So that was great to read, because nobody I don't want to go downtown and like last night we went downtown to the High Fives annual fundraiser, which was really awesome, and we parked like right by the Reno Event Center, and it was easy.
You
outside on the street. Oh yeah, dude, easy. Yeah.
You didn't have to walk over some tents. Didn't
have to step in human feces or anything like that. It was great.
Yeah, that project that they had, it was well done. They got land it looked like it was sort of in a commercial area, but they built these tiny homes, and then the people that got to move in like have this little sense of ownership, and they looked like they were taking care of it, and it was just a win-win. Mm-hmm. Everything they were doing with that project, I read that same article, and it looked like it was a win for Reno.
Yeah. And then meanwhile, like Truckee sounds like they've been having problems with homeless.
There are some homeless folks up there. Yeah. And they're downtown. I'm not downtown anymore, so I'm not. You don't see them. I'm not managing it anymore. But yeah, right before I stopped working, there's a bit of an issue with it downtown.
Yeah. Well, there's another crisis that's happening in Truckee right now. I don't know if you heard about this, but Avant Werks, which is an Audi repair.
I know Drew.
So they shut down.
Avant Werks, Drew, shut down?
They're closed.
Why?
Because he can't recruit talent when a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house costs $1.5 million. And so Yeah, maybe, now that people in Truckee who have multi-million-dollar houses can't afford to, or can't find someone to fix their Audi, maybe they'll finally do something about the housing issue in Truckee.
That's a good positive spin on that.
Finally, it's come to a breaking point. Nobody can work on my Audi. We got to do something about this.
Well, I mean, I've always said it's like the crumbling of all the essential services. Like when you can't get your tires rotated, the Bank of the West finally they reopened to be back to being 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But they were
not in Truckee.
The branch in Truckee is open 5 days a week now.
Thursdays only.
Thursdays only. That's what I want. They said that they were back open again.
Oh, I'm still banking with them for some reason.
With Bank of the West?
Well, they're BMO now.
Yes, BMO. Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah, Thursdays only. Still, past 2 years.
Yeah, 1 day a week.
1 day a week for a bank.
Yeah, 2 years now.
I thought they made it back to 5 days a week, but
no, not quite. I thought they did too. When I was on my adventure this summer, I heard they made a switch, and I had all these card issues switching over and whatnot. But
yeah, the essential services. I mean, when you can't, Avant Werks was a long-running business. In Truckee.
20 plus years, man.
Drew had been there a long time.
Yep. Yeah, I read that article. I was like, wow, that really tells you something, right? Like when you can't bring in people, and mechanics make good money. Mm-hmm. They make good money, like especially in a place like Truckee where you can charge pretty much whatever you want to charge if you're a good shop and reputable shop. But even making good money, you still can't afford to buy a house. So
it's just the way someone was telling me about how they had a friend who was like an electrician, and they went and interviewed at Squaw, and the hourly rate was $20 or $25 an hour for like a journeyman electrician, and he was like, yeah, no, I think I'll pass on that.
Yeah. Well, when is the winter solstice? It's coming up in a couple of days here, right?
Yeah. The
21st, or is it the 22nd?
I think it's the 21st. They're usually on the 21st.
All right. So, every year we like to celebrate the seasons. This is Vivaldi's. Which one is this? The winter?
This is winter. So we at this point now, Kurt, we've hit all 4 seasons.
We've made it 4 seasons.
We've made it 4 seasons.
Ooh, Mind the Track made it 4 seasons. All right. Awesome. So let's take this in for a minute.
When I first edited this today and downloaded it, it made me think of that. We just have to be patient. Be patient for winter, and then it hits.
Oh, like the build?
Yeah, it's like a slow build.
Yeah. This is a beautiful piece of music, actually. It's very intense.
It's like being caught on Highway 80 in a lowrider with ball tires.
Yeah. Jake, what does this make you think of when you hear this?
Well, from the music, it just kind of sounded like end of December is going to hit heavy. It's going to cool down.
Yeah.
January. And then February. And March.
Oh, dang.
And April.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's going to dump.
I like the way you're thinking.
That's what it sounds like.
It does. Yeah.
Ooh, May?
It's hanging on.
Well, so we'd already be into the next season by then.
No, that's true.
May, yeah, because the spring solstice is the 21st of April.
Don't ruin it for us, Tom.
It might extend this year, I heard.
Yeah.
Since it's a month late.
Don't kill the vibe, bro. we were vibing on winter and you just killed it. Come on, man. I know you like skiing in May. All right, so there you go.
For 4th season.
4th season. We've made it. What do you think about this whole past year, Tom? Have you been enjoying doing the pod?
I have. Yeah, it's been a fun ride to be along with your bike world this summer.
Yeah.
And getting to meet all the people in the bike world and go on some fun rides that I probably never would have been a part of. So I feel really blessed and stoked that I was able to be a part of that. Yeah, and I'm just simply waiting for winter to finally show up so I can hopefully pay it forward for you.
Yeah, man.
We can shred some pow and put our mind in the skin track for a couple months.
Yeah, it's cool how it went from, like, when we started this thing, we were in the heart of the biggest winter ever, and things were intense and crazy, and it was fun to document that season, right? That, like, pretty memorable year. People aren't going to soon forget the winter of 22, 23. Yeah, so that was really cool to get the show started during that time. And then just through the summer, I think it's kind of the theme we talked about last episode, was just like the greatest season after greatest season after greatest season. I mean, we are still technically in fall for the next couple of days, and we just did a bike ride today.
Yeah, still shred bikes.
We got up to almost 7,000 feet elevation, and there's still dirt to be had in certain spots if you know where to look. So it's hanging on for a few more days anyway. Looks like tomorrow's going to get wet.
Warm and wet.
Yeah, warm and wet. Well, speaking of warm and wet, Jake spent a lot of time being warm and wet on his adventures.
I was wet with sweat more than anything.
Hot and wet then? You were hot and wet?
It was a hot and wet summer for myself.
So for people who didn't listen to episode 11, give us a quick recap of your journey. When we talked to you on episode 11, you gave us kind of a rundown of what you were planning to do, but talk to us about what your plan was, where you were going, and then let's dive into the adventure a little.
Sure. Yeah, I set out for yet another bikepacking trip. This one was from Truckee all the way up to, ended up going all the way to Bellingham, Washington, but just Truckee to Port Townsend was the original goal, and kind of have a little guilt of being that privileged to take off that much time from work and do that. So I did a fundraiser for World Bicycle Relief and raised almost $8,000, which equates to almost 50 bikes for people in third world countries, which is, just absolutely amazing to be able to change lives by riding your own bike.
That's awesome, dude.
But yeah, so set out in June 3rd. I left Truckee and started bebopping all the way up through the top of California to in Oregon and then into Washington. But yeah, it was a rad summer, to say the least, of a lot of serendipities and small world stories.
So like 2 months, pretty much?
It's like almost three.
Just
a couple days shy of 3 months of living on the bike. Took me about a month to get up to Port Townsend. And from there I had to come back for a wedding. So it took me about 28 days to get up, 28 hours to get back, and then got shoved in the back of a car all hungover from my best friend's wedding and driven up to Bend and then to Portland, took the train back up to Seattle and retrieved my bike and continued the adventures up to the motherland of Bellingham.
How was Beham?
It was wild.
Had you been there before?
Not once. My buddy drove my full suspension bike up. So I linked up with him when I rolled into town, stayed at his friend's house, checked off some trails, some different zones, and then him and I ended up doing a nice 10-day 450-mile loop out to eastern Washington, Wenatchee, up to Lake Chelan, and then back over Stevens Pass, back to Snoqualmie on, I'd say, probably about like 70% single track.
Wow.
Yeah, and 6 of the 9 days of pedaling, we did over $5,000 of vertical gain.
What's is that the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest through there?
That was like Cascades. Gifford-Pinchot is going to be in between Helens and Adams.
Oh, okay.
And then up towards like Rainier.
Gotcha.
So just north of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow. What was your favorite stretch of your trip?
Oh, man.
I know that's a generic question.
I mean, you brought up the Gifford-Pinchot, so that comes to mind immediately.
Really?
It was
there's some pretty amazing trails there, right?
It was lush. There's a lot of water. It's green. There's moss growing on the roads. My buddy Danny joined me at the Oregon border, so we did Hood River all the way to Port Townsend together. So it's cool to share the experience with a good friend and also a really ripping biker.
Yeah.
We got into some good single track, and not over our heads, but it was that threshold of riding a loaded bike.
Yeah, because how much was your bike weigh? Like 50 pounds?
Probably just over, yeah. I think I got it down, at that time it was probably about 60. Then I got it down to about like 55. Once I took my back rack off and then used a saddlebag designed for dropper post and traveled a lot lighter from there.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
What do you think about riding with a fully set up bike? How long did it take you to get adapted to that added weight and like the balance difference?
This is my first trip with the Karate Monkey, so it was definitely a little bit of a learning curve with the shock or the front fork and getting your bags like all super tight to the bike, so there's no like leeway of balance.
Yeah.
But the rear rack is super solid, so you're not having any of your gears shift from side to side, and everything just finds its place in each bag after 5 days.
Yeah.
Your toothbrush gets slid into next to your pots and pans, and your stove goes in your pan, and your sleeping bag and sleep setup go in the same spot pretty much every night, you know.
So does your setup maybe get smaller as the trip goes on because you figure out ways to pack things more efficiently, or do you have it pretty much dialed before you left?
Good question. The thing with bike packing is if you have bags, you're gonna fill those bags. If you have space to put things, you're gonna put things there.
Yeah.
You know, you could use an extra pair of underwear, you know, or an extra pair of chamois, or a raincoat, or an extra base layer, or whatever it be.
Or like a tchotchke from a roadside store you found.
Yeah, totally. A little cocktail umbrella. I had one of those for a while that I carried around with me. So get up to Washington and you have a rainier, just right in there. Yeah, a bunch of silly items. I had some funny sunglasses for the whole summer that were gifted to me that I rocked. But yeah, it was a full summer of laughs and hanging out with random ass people and having good experiences up and down the mountain range. Essentially, it was on volcano tour. It's sweet.
So you know, Kurt, there's a French term for what Drake was describing, which is mise en place.
Mise en place.
Mise en place.
I think I've heard of this before.
Is that like Biggie Smalls party and bullshit?
No, it actually comes from the restaurant world, sort of, but also even from the boat world. But everything has its place. And you learn that probably quickly on a bike trip.
Yeah, there's not a lot of space to put anything.
And if it's not where it needs to be, you sort it out quickly.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you said it took you about 5 days to figure that out.
Yeah, if even. You know. Yeah, day one was a little bit scrambly. My buddy Eli joined me to ride from Truckee all the way up to the Lost and Found gravel grinder where I saw you.
Yeah.
And camped in the back behind the truck, and we had a little send-off party the night before, and naturally stayed up until the morning pre-bike trip. So the bike was packed probably by 6 in the morning or so.
It's a little haphazardly, or what?
Yeah, that's one way to say it. I think there were haircuts and hairspray being thrown around my buddy's bathroom at the wee hours of the night. So it was a slow start, but we made it up to Port Tola. And
you got to cut your hair before a trip like that. It's kind of like the thing you do, right? It's kind of like the pre-trip hairdo extravaganza, right?
It was
monument the start of the trip.
Hands down the most botched haircut I've ever
Did you have the racing stripes in the side of your head?
One side
had
they tried, and then I cut them off. I mean, it was quite the scene. I won't get into the details.
Were you using like a Flowbee or just like a shears or what?
Oh, just like the classic like $10 walls thing you'll get down at Rite Aid or something.
Yeah.
Well, not Rite Aid anymore; they're closed. But
like some dog shears.
Yeah, it was a rough one, but
Rite Aid closed too.
Rite Aid closed.
Jeez.
Discontinued.
So when you lit out a Truckee this spring, did you just immediately ride into a wall of snow? From last winter?
Yeah, because you left in early June. There was still a ton of snow in the mountains, right?
Did that affect your plan and your route a little bit?
Yeah, I brought my beacon probe and shovel, and it came in hand. No, I did not. Day one was pretty smooth up to Port Tola. From there, I made it north of Susanville on all back roads, and it was there was a lot of snow. Feet of snow still.
Yeah.
The ride down in Susanville was pretty cool. North of there, I wanted to go up Lassen Pass, but that was just not plowed, and that's usually plowed around the 4th.
Right.
Of like first week of June.
Memorial Day usually.
Yeah. So I had to make an alternate route, cutting Lassen out and going north towards Old Station.
Did you go east of Lassen, like out in the desert, kind of?
Yeah, it wasn't quite desert.
Yeah, but along the shoulder of it, or whatever.
Yeah. I couldn't tell you the name of the roads, but found a lot of snow. Just did like an up and over to try and ride as much dirt as possible. Ended up hiking my bike up about 8 miles uphill. And just snow and down trees, and like trying to pick my bike up and over full trees.
Like fresh down trees.
Yeah, from
last winter.
From the winter, yeah. Nobody had been up there. No snowmobiles, no dirt bikes.
Dang. And how much snow was there, like at the most, like when you were walking it?
Oh, probably about like 4 feet still on that road.
Wow.
So I got up and over and dropped down and made it into Old Station that night.
And was that the big detour? Was there more than one big detour, or was that the main big detour?
Yeah, there was a couple for sure. Just some alternates, but that was a big one.
Yeah.
I really wanted to go up and over Lassen, but more dirt.
You were just going to take 89, like the road through the national park?
Yeah, I was hoping that the timing would line up right, because they plow it, and then cars aren't allowed up and over it.
Right.
So I was really crossing my fingers and trying to manifest that being like the window of me being up there. But that one didn't quite work out, which was fine.
That's always a good time to go up there and ski it.
Yeah.
When the road opens and it's not open to cars, and then you can zip up with your e-bike.
Exactly.
And get Lassen.
Or your acoustic bike.
Yeah. If you're not into the
Amish bike. Is this Rumspringa.
The Rumspringa.
We're trying to set a terminology standard here, you know.
So, Jake, you had mentioned that you were trying to do some other historic routes too. Were there any really cool historic trails that you eventually jumped on, or?
I did a couple that were established routes.
Okay.
Is that what you're referring to?
Or just an old historic trail, or you know?
I did hit the Bizz Johnson bike trail, which is pretty cool. The old rail trail there.
The Bizz Johnson's awesome.
That was
Susanville. Right?
Yeah, that was
Susanville.
Pretty wild to see after the burn.
Yep.
The fire that went through there. Yep. It was hot. I mean, there's no shade.
Yep.
And water was pretty sparse there too.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty devastating to see for sure.
Now were there the Dixie? I know there was the sheep fire, which burned like the upper part of the trail, like going towards Westwood. But did the Dixie fire burn another section of it?
I'm not sure. I was under the impression that it was the Dixie, but I could be totally wrong on that.
No, that burned because we rode the Bizz Johnson like 3 weeks before the Dixie fire happened.
Oh, wow.
And we rode through a huge burn zone. And I think the year before, it was called the sheep fire, I believe, burned all of that. But the Dixie fire also burned almost into Susanville. So I think the Dixie fire hit Fredonia Pass maybe. But anyway, it's like the lower section from town where you go through the tunnels, the old train tunnels, which are super cool. I love riding into those old train tunnels because like you start riding in and then you can't see anything except for a light way off in the distance.
End of the tunnel.
Yeah,
those ones are pretty a good threshold of getting in the middle, and you're like, I'll be good without a light.
Right.
You get in the middle, you're like, oh, I can't see anything at all.
Yeah.
And then
I hope there's not a tombstone rock waiting for me.
Yeah, or ice patch, or
a troll.
Wanting a toll, a troll wanting a toll.
Just stop your front tire.
Yep. $5 to get by. Bizz Johnson Trail. I'm giving you a heads up if you go back up there.
They call it Bizz Johnson for a reason because somebody's making a biz off all your money when they charge you to go through the tunnel. Yeah, that's a cool route. Did you ride through Klamath Falls?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Did you ride any of the trails in Klamath Falls?
I did not.
I heard there's some really good mountain biking in Klamath Falls.
Yeah, I ran into a guy who worked for, oh gosh, I don't want to say this on the podcast, but I think he worked for Trek. Sorry if I'm wrong, Scott. And he was telling me about the trails out there. He came up to me and was like, "Hey, where are you riding?" Blah blah blah.
Oh, so he just saw you riding and just chatted you up.
Yeah, I had a delayed start. I had to get my third coffee of the morning before getting going up and over and heading north towards Crater Lake. Yeah, and he came by and said hello, and
I've ridden there. It's fun.
You've ridden Klamath Falls?
Yeah. I pulled the old Red Side attraction heading up there. I was heading to Oak Ridge a couple years ago, and just pulled. I had left later in the day, so I wasn't going to make it in a full day. And it's always fun to just sort of pull out the trail forks when you're on the road. Yep. And it was like, oh look, there's trail here.
And what'd you think?
It was rad.
Yeah, it's really good.
There was some trails. So I rode. It was a little east of town. No, sorry, it was a little west of town, above this reservoir, and there was a pretty extensive trail network with some newer trail, little section of flow trail even, and then there was a whole bunch of older raw sort of old school single track. It was fun. Yeah, I had a day of it. Cool. I think I went for like a 16-mile ride there.
Yeah, I'd like to make that a future trip.
Yeah, it's a great way to break up the trek up to Oak Ridge or Bend.
Stopover.
You stop over there, and then I slept in the parking lot of the Walmart, which is what you do.
In Klamath Falls.
I think so. Yeah.
Is that what you do when you're artisanal homeless personing?
Yeah. You're not going to get the knock on the. I hate getting the knock.
The knock sucks.
The knock's the worst thing. It's like such a
2 in the morning. 2 in the morning. The knock. Did you get any knocks while you're riding?
Knocks on your tent?
I was trying to. It's a pretty soft tent, so I wouldn't really hear it. I did not.
No one was like, "Hey, what are you doing here, Sonny?"
No, not at all. But I did have one run-in with non-human disturbance.
Oh, what was that?
They were black and white and striped, and they smell real bad.
Oh no!
And they were running straight at my face in the middle of the night. And
what the fuck?
Oh yeah, 2 of them. I like woke up and I heard a little.
They had it out for you.
Oh yeah, I turned over. Me and my buddy Bjorn were cowboy camping, and turned the head, and I'm like, holy hell! I'm like, these things are just like coming right at you. And I was like, hey! I'm like, stand up, and I'm running around in my sleeping bag, and they sprayed and then took off and like went through like 3 camp spots. I was like, holy!
Did they hit you with their spray?
I'm sure it was close enough.
I could still smell in the morning, but none of the gear was.
I mean, did you smell better?
I smelled better. It was more Pepe le perfume.
Pepe le Jake.
Pepe le Jacques. Yeah, I did not smell good all summer. It was pretty brutal.
Oh man, dude, vicious skunks? That sounds terrifying.
It was the only.
They're like badgers. That's like one of my worst nightmares.
They're like badgers. They just with like bad stinky glands.
And when your head's the same height as them, and you look over and they look kind of tall. And actually,
Could you see their teeth? Were they like as they were like coming at you?
Not really. It was middle of the night, but I could just feel like they were a team. They were on a mission, and that mission was not going to be successful.
You were in the way.
I was in the way.
What? Because they were going for your food or what?
Maybe, I'm not sure, but they're little rascals. But
so you were cowboy camping. You didn't have your tent. That's okay. Yeah. Got it. How often did you cowboy camp versus tent camp?
Not too often, because I usually sleep with my food most of the time as my pillow.
Yeah.
And in that case, like mice.
Do you have like marshmallows?
Marshmallows?
Yeah, for food.
Sometimes.
Because it's like
for
like a nice pillow, like marshmallows as a pillow.
The tuna packets, they cut into the neck a little bit through the food bag, but they're definitely worth it flavor-wise on trail, which I ate every day this summer.
Yeah, what was your number one food?
A block of cheese. I had a block of cheese with me.
You had a block of cheese today on today's ride.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to keep it going.
I like that. That's a good
salty.
It's a power move right there.
My brother would
block
approve.
Of cheese.
Anti-bonk.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm going to share a really funny story about my brother.
Let's hear it.
So he was in town. Love you, bro, Ray. He was in town a couple years ago, and we took him for a bike ride on the old Immigrant Trail, which is kind of like the intro 101 bike trail. And we ride all the way out to Stampede, and we get to Stampede, and my middle brother and I, we take our clothes off and get naked and jump in the lake and start swimming around, and my oldest brother's just laying like dead on his back, just staring up at the sky. The ride out there had crushed him, and so like we get out of the water, and we're like, hey bro, like what's going on? What are you thinking about? And he's like, what would be really nice right about now? And we're like, what? Like a beer? Like he's like, some cheese. He's laying there daydreaming about cheese.
Yeah.
Jim and I, my other brother, we just look at each other and we're like, oh my God, he's never going to live this down. So like whenever we have an opportunity to like prank him with some cheese, we like he stayed at our house a while back, and we had like a little, thing of like, Nicole helped get a little thing of cheese for him and like some cheesy puffs, and like, yeah, whenever we go out to a restaurant, I always like pre-order the cheese plate. Yeah, so now I love it. That's that's God, what you need when you're bonking. When you're bonking, like dude, that's what I thought that's what lesson I learned. I was like, you need some cheese.
Imagine if Jake Mann was on your ride.
Oh yeah.
And Ray was laying there dead and was like, you know what I could use right now? Some cheese. And Jake Mann's like, here, man. He'd be like, boom, his head would explode.
Dude, totally pulls out a giant block of sharp cheddar.
Extra sharp.
I got two flavors. I got extra sharp and pepper jack. What do you like?
Yeah, I think
So
block of cheese. Yeah, and when you're just burning through that many calories, as both of you know, is your body, your cravings come through really strong. So
totally, and it's easy to carry, right?
Yeah, block of cheese. It's pretty light.
It's like a decent pillow. It's like semi-soft, right?
Yeah, like 6.
It's like one of those firm pillows.
It's like a 6 out of 10. Yeah, it's like that.
Yeah, it's like a firm pillow.
Yeah, it works pretty well, especially when it's in your bike bag all day and it's sweaty.
Did you buy that Tillamook cheese? That's good cheese.
It was Tillamook. I'm a big Cabot guy myself.
Because you're Vermont. You're a syrup head. You're from Vermont. Yeah.
But Tillamook, it's a close second, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Tillamook is like, it's Cabot. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Yeah, Cabot is. Vermont and Oregon, in my mind, are very similar. Like, I've been in Vermont a lot, I've been in Oregon a lot, and when I'm in both those states, I'm like, these two states are like sister states in a lot of ways, like the terrain and the culture and then cheese. So they have their own. Vermont has a cheese brand, Oregon has their cheese brand. There you go. You could be so I have a question, because when you left on this trip, you were like, I don't know, I might not be back. I might stay up
Let's
there.
get into that. Like, what was it?
So, did you leave on this trip thinking that you might end up moving to the Pacific Northwest and living there?
I mean, I kept I kept the door open.
Yeah.
Which I try and do in day-to-day life, which is hard, but keeping an open mindset and going in, I'm like, hey, a lot of people are like, dude, you should go check out Bellingham and Washington. It's, kind of California, kind of Montana, kind of Oregon, like all shoved up in that corner and right next to BC.
Right.
So, it was in the back of my head. But I knew I had to come back here because all my belongings were in Truckee, and then I had to go to Vermont for a couple weddings. And things lined up, to say the least, after that in Vermont for me to come back to Truckee. So, still a possibility.
But was your choice to come back here like a fully conscious one, where you were like, I want to be here after being up there, I like it better here? Or is it more like a few opportunities arose where I'm not ready to leave yet and I'm going to stay?
It was kind of a combination of both. With work, the option to learn a lot more about the company that I work for, that I love, and
that company is
New Moon Natural Foods.
There we go.
Give them a shout out.
Give them a shout. They give Jake Mann a long leash to go on these bike trips. It's cool. But it sounds like lately you've been on a very short leash, huh?
Yeah,
you've been 9 to 5 in it.
I've been a weekend warrior, which is the first time ever.
Yeah.
It's taken a toll on my
Jake Mann lifestyle.
My Jake Mann lifestyle, dude. You can't stay up as late and go see as much music, but Truckee's hard to leave. It is.
Yeah.
I found a great community here with great people. Obviously, the access to all the outdoor sports is incredible and kind of hard to beat when it snows. And living situation, work. I've kind of found myself in a good spot.
Yeah.
Be silly to leave.
Good.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So
because that's not the case for a lot of people.
Totally, and I totally understand that. I'm super grateful. It's just, I think it really boils down to plugging yourself into the community and getting to know the people in the community. You got to get out there. New Moon's.
You got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, New Moon's my community, and a lot of great people come in and out of there, employee and customer wise. Yeah.
And you're a pretty charismatic guy. I'm sure you meet a lot of people in your course of your work day, huh?
Yeah, here and there. Yep.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Yeah. So are you a manager now? Are you a big manager guy?
I'm assistant to
the assistant manager?
No, the assistant to the buyer of wine, frozen, refrigerated, and grocery buying.
Oh, okay.
Who also does digital invoicing and accounts payable.
So you're on the buyer track. Sort
of. That's the goal. Yeah.
That's a good path, dude.
Yeah, it's all new stuff.
Yeah.
It's really cool to see how a company runs from the inside like that. It gives me a lot more appreciation for what everybody does there.
Yeah.
And the process in doing it all. So.
Yeah.
Do you get to buy the cheese?
We have a specialty cheese buyer.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh.
He is the monger of New Moon.
The cheesemonger?
The cheesemonger.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
It seems like you'd be gaming for that job.
Shout out to Cheese Pete.
Cheese Pete?
Cheese Pete, man. He's got it dialed in the cheese realm.
All right.
If I could have, I can't bring all that cheese.
Is he a Packers fan?
He's a Steelers fan, actually.
All right. I got to meet Cheese Pete, man.
Come on in.
Cheese Pete, does he say Anat? Or Yins? Does he say Yins? Is he from Pittsburgh?
I'm pretty sure he's from around there. Oh no, he's from upstate New York.
But he's a Steelers fan.
Big Steelers fan.
Okay.
Can't be a Jets fan these days,
I guess not.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, not a whole lot of fun things to be a Jets fan for.
Yeah.
The Steelers, man. I don't even watch football anymore, and I always check to see what the Steelers are doing. I haven't watched football, and God knows how long. I grew up in Pittsburgh and watched the Steelers when I was a kid, so I'm still like, what are the Steelers doing? It's the only team I really care about.
Yeah, I used to follow the Patriots until Tom Brady left.
Right.
I don't follow football anymore.
If Tom Brady started his own new sport, you would follow that sport?
No,
it's Tom
I probably
Brady.
wouldn't. I don't know.
So what you're saying is you're a Tom Brady fan.
Yeah, I will say no to that, but I have no further comments.
I don't even know what you guys are talking about.
I know. I don't either.
Foot what?
I don't know. Football, man. It's what you Americans call soccer.
Let's get back to the bike a little bit, Jake. So Klamath Falls, after Klamath, you made your way to Bend?
Yeah, well, Crater Lake.
Oh.
So I stayed in K Falls. I stayed at Warm Showers host.
Warm Showers. Tell us a little bit about that for people who are not familiar with that.
Yeah, it's a great host program for people cycle touring. Mm-hmm. I think it's $20 a year, or they might have changed it to like $5 a month or something. But you reach out, it has a map of icons of where people are.
It's like an app?
Yeah, and you just message, a host and like, hey, this is when I'm going to be here. Do you have room? Minimum, it is a place to put a tent and access to a shower, which is the shower's always, a nice bonus. But usually, most of the time, it's going to be, they'll supply you with breakfast or dinner and share stories. They're usually cycle tourists as well and have all these cool things like beta and local routes and bike packing advice, and it's really cool. But in Klamath Falls, I stayed with somebody who didn't cycle tour. She was such a sweetheart. Her name was Emily, I want to say. But she loves cats. She had about 9 cats running around, and it was quite the experience.
Are you allergic or not?
No, I love cats, but it was it was an abundant amount of cats.
Like, were you choking on hairballs?
Like in my sleep once.
Were you having flashbacks to the skunk attack?
Oh, skunk was in the future at this point. Okay. Yeah.
Hey, move your chair just a little bit away from the... There you go. It was rubbing up against the mic. Perfect.
A rubber. So, yeah, from Klamath Falls, I boogied up to Jackson Kimball State Park, which is just southeast of Crater Lake.
Yep.
Stay there. Most mosquitoes of the trip.
South of Crater Lake.
Yeah, full rain gear. Full, like, no skin exposed. Just.
Did you have a net on? You had a face net?
Did not have face net.
Did you need one?
I could have used one, yeah. But if I didn't bring the face net, I could bring more cheese. So it was kind of like a trade-off in that sense. Space-wise.
You wear the face net the whole trip.
Oh.
Over your helmet.
I have not experienced
Okay, so here's a hot tip for you. If you live or ride in a place with a lot of face flies or no-see-ums, go to the hardware store for $1.99. You buy one of those head nets. You throw it over your helmet. Problem solved.
Wow.
It looks real weird, and people will look at you and go, or if you're like, climbing a long way, just wear a baseball cap and throw it over, and that way the bill, right? Like, they'll look at you and go, what are you doing? But then when they're next to you riding and they're getting attacked by bugs, they're going to look at you and think you're pretty damn smart. And they're like, that's actually a good idea. Because it's totally breathable. Like, you don't even know it's there until you spit. And then you're like, damn it, head net.
Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah. I'm like on a long climb in Downeyville, and there's like this one climb where there's face flies all the time, and so I have my head net on, and I'm just grunting and sweating and breathing, and I just like go to spit. It's just like, boom, a loogie like right in front of my face. I'm like, oops, damn it.
You need to patent your own angry single speeder face nets.
Well, I want to do an integrated like helmet net where you like push a button and it just goes, and it just like comes down around you, That'd be like a new feature.
Those face nets are the worst though.
The face flies are. Did you have a problem with face flies on your trip?
No. Jackson Kimball, I mean, that was Oregon. It's like, man, it's going to get real bad from here.
Yeah.
Going up into the Pacific Northwest, which I've never been to. It was like, oh yeah, it's pretty wet and damp and it rains. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, then not last year up there though. So that was one of my questions. Like, at what point on your ride did you realize that you had ridden out of the historic winter that California had, and you rode into sort of like a drought winter in the Pacific Northwest, which they had? They did not have a good winter last year. So at a certain point, you had to have sort of crossed the line and been like, well, what happened to winter? Or the remnants of it, I guess.
I don't know. I ran into snow all the way up to Olympia. Yeah. We ran into some snow. Danny and I, when I say we ran into some snow going into Randall, Washington. We pushed our bikes on a ridge line and ended up dropping this insane single track moto trail where I blew my back tire up like first rock feature.
Oh no.
So we had a little maintenance there. We're riding down. It's like jagged, exposed, steep. He's on a Surly Krampus, 3+ tires, no suspension. I've got my hardtail with 100 in the front. And there's this one huge right-hand turn down, and it's all rock, like one large rock. And we ride the whole trail. We clean the whole thing and get to the bottom, across the river. It gets a little stormy. We pitter patter to the pavement, get into Randall, Washington, and we roll up to the one bar in town.
Randall,
Washington.
And this is near where?
This is going to be
Southern Washington?
Yep. This is going to be just south of the split between Adams and Helens. Going up into the Gifford-Pinchot.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Randall's going to be just west of Packwood.
Okay.
So we get to Randall, and the bar's right there. The only business in town, I think, besides the gas station. So, roll my bike up, put it against the planter. There's a guy on FaceTiming. And put the bike up, turn around. He's FaceTiming. He just goes like this and holds out a joint. This guy does not look over at me at all. I'm like,
but did he know that you rode up on a bike?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he was standing there the whole time.
Got it.
So he hands me this joint, and I'm like,
doesn't skip a beat.
Yeah. And I'm like looking around, I'm like, all right, thanks. And I grab it, and right before I puff it, he goes, one rule, it's puff, puff, pass. 2 and give it back. I was like, all right. So I take 2 puffs.
Welcome to Randall.
Don't vulgar
Randall, right? Yeah, and he's on FaceTime. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just handing this smelly biker man a joint, and sorry, I'm just a little distracted right now. Meanwhile, he's not paying any attention to me. It was the most bizarre experience ever. So it was pretty funny. We proceeded to go into the bar, order 2 meals each, and he got to meet all the locals of Randall, Washington. It was a classic bar.
Did they think you guys were crazy because you rode your bikes all that way with all those things on your bike?
Oh yeah. I mean, the best part was they go, oh, you guys came down Dark Meadow. Did you guys hit the rock staircase? We're like,
they knew.
They knew the exact rock that we went over. We're like, oh yeah. They're like, on those bikes? We're like, yeah. They're like, you guys are legends. You guys are the craziest people we've met, And it was quite the scene in there.
So that was was that Dark Canyon too? Or was Dark Meadow and Dark Canyon different?
I'm not sure. I didn't see Dark Canyon there.
Oh, you didn't do. So Dark Meadow is the name of the trail you guys came down?
Yeah. Yep.
I'll have to look that one up. It sounds kind of rad.
It was pretty rad. It was a loose, janky moto trail.
Yeah, like big descent.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably about $2,000.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It was beautiful up there.
What was the biggest descent you had of the trip?
Of the summer?
Yeah, of the whole summer.
Probably when Bjorn and I went out to Wenatchee and we went up and camped at Lake Chelan. We had a 6,100 foot climb. We got up to the top. No relief. I mean, there's no downhills. Just all dirt road, up. We had a 15-mile, 6,000 foot descent. With no pedaling involved.
Wow. Dang.
All the way down to the river where we camped.
Holy crap, that's like bigger than Downeyville.
It was huge. It was a good 3 hours of uphill.
Wow. What trail was that? Do you remember? Was it one trail or a series of trails?
I can't remember the name of that one going down.
But it was from like west of Chelan, way up in the top of the Cascades and then down?
Yep, all the way up and then dropped down into Eniat Valley.
Okay.
And then camped there for the night and then did a 5,600 foot climb up and then had another 14-mile downhill to pavement where we went into Leavenworth and took a day off there.
Leavenworth's a cool town. Did you enjoy it?
Oh, so rad.
Yeah. Did you ride in Leavenworth? Any of the trails there?
We did not.
There's some good riding there.
I was told by the guys at Arlberg Sports.
Yeah, Xanadu and Rosie Boa. Like, there's some cool. Whoever built the trails in Leavenworth is infatuated with Knife Edge Ridge. Like, they build the trail right on this knife edge ridge where it's a drop off on both sides.
Whoa.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah. Did you go eat at the Bavarian theme? Did you get some Wiener Schnitzel and some Spätzle?
We got some schnitzel, yeah. It was nice.
From a guy wearing a green sweater.
Very appropriate.
Willkommen.
Yeah, it was a fun time. I ran into we were sitting outside of, oh gosh, what was it? We were in Wenatchee, sitting outside of Sportsman's Warehouse, plugged in, the side of the building to charge some devices. I get a text as soon as I sit down. Hey, are you in Wenatchee? Phone number I don't recognize from the East Coast. Like, yeah. Figured that's all like social media or something. Before I know it, it's a girl that I went to college with 8 years ago that I haven't seen.
What?
In 8 years, she's walking across the parking lot with her boyfriend. She's, what are you doing here? It's like, getting snacks, like, first of all, and then we're going to do this loop and then come in Leavenworth. And they're like, no way, we live in Leavenworth. You guys should totally stay with us.
That's so awesome. I love when those things happen.
That's cool when kismet happens like that.
And they're like, we've never been to Sportsman's Warehouse before. It's just like an off-chance coincidence.
Random.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
That's really cool. Did you have any other, encounters like that, similar to that, or? Yeah,
actually, you might remember David, who I met at the Sierra Nevada tent at the Lost and Found gravel grinder. There's two dudes standing right there when I came up and found you.
Yep.
One of them was very interested in the trip. I was like, yeah, man, like, we're going up to the Olympic Peninsula and where I am. And it's like, oh, when are you going to be?
Diamond Dave? Was it Dave?
Maybe.
He was super friendly, nice guy.
On the yellow bike.
Yeah. Dude, Diamond Dave.
The
guy's a badass.
Yeah,
straight
for
badass.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I'm like, yeah, man, like, I'll let you know when I'm up there. He's like, oh, I'll be up there for so-and-so. I'm like, cool. Like, just in passing, like, super friendly dude. Get his number. He texts me maybe a couple weeks later, and I'm like, oh, he's like, when are you going to be up to the peninsula? I'm like, I don't know. Whenever the wind gets me there, We're not really in a rush, and we take a rest day in Olympia, me and Danny at this point. And we're at this guy's house, and I'm like, oh, no shit, there's a bike packing race going clockwise around the Olympic Peninsula.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, hey, like, we were just going to ride 101 straight up because it's kind of hard to find a route. Let's do this in reverse. Cut up, do all these dirt roads, and get up to Port Townsend. So we do that for a day, and then the second day we hit this gas station, and there's 4 bike packers right there. I'm like, yeah, I have to go say hi to anybody that's bike packing if I'm out on the road. So we cruise in, take the helmet off. Danny just lost his jersey, like, on the trail, like, super bombed. We went back for a little bit to look for it. So we're gonna get some ice cream, get some snacks, cold beverage. And I take my helmet off and I turn around, and it's David. Dave, right there. I was like, he's like, Jake. I'm like, no way, man. I'm like, he's like, yeah, this is why I'm up here. I'm doing this race. I'm like, no kidding.
That's so random.
Oh, so wild.
That's so cool. And he lives in the Bay, or where does he live?
He does, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh,
that's so cool.
Yeah, and they were like trying to get going, and there's a pack. There were like 4 people riding together, kind of leapfrogging, and it's like, oh, dude, we'll see you back in the hill. And my buddy Danny's like, dude, he can grab my jersey.
If he sees it.
If he sees it, it's a black jersey. Lo and behold, he did. He ended up grabbing Danny's jersey off the ground on the trail and then biked around the whole route, which was like...
To find you to give it back?
350 more miles. So get this, we go up to Port Townsend. A friend drives Danny's truck up. We go out, do an overnighter, take the ferry over to Coopville, which is an island. It's part of an island from Port Townsend. Come back, and I get a call from David. He's like, "Hey, man, just finished, doing our race." I'm like, "Sick." He's like, "I got the jersey." I'm like, "No way." I'm like, "I just said goodbye to Danny and Dennis. I'm up on the bluff, like, waving down to them." He's like, "Yeah, we're going to leave Squim right now and hit 101. I'm like, "Dude, I'm giving you Danny's number. I think you guys are going to hit the road at the same time." And lo and behold, they were 30 seconds away from each other.
Oh my God.
Hitting 101. And Danny got his jersey back, like, right there.
That is so cool.
Yeah. A lot of small world stories.
The bike, it's a magical thing, man, especially when you pack all your belongings on it and just go pedal.
Yeah.
And put your faith in it.
Yeah, and you got to put your faith in it, and you got to just immerse yourself in that world and that lifestyle. But people love it, man. People love to see that happening, and they'll support it. Like, they invite you to their home, they buy you dinner, they give you a joint while they're FaceTiming. Like, there's so many things that just puff past, though.
Yeah.
Don't bogart it.
No,
but yeah, that's cool, man. That's awesome. What would you say was the weather was cooperative, or was it uncooperative? Because that can make or break a trip sometimes.
So all the way up to, we had a heavy winter here, so there was a lot of snow out and about, and just moisture. So there were like storms. I didn't really get caught in any until just north of Bend, north of the Sisters, and north of Sisters, the town.
Yeah.
I took about 4 days off in Bend and caught up with about a dozen college friends who I hadn't seen in years. And finally, after getting offered a job and a bedroom to move into and not leave Bend, I finally left Bend and made it to Sisters. It was a tough decision, and did a short 30-mile day. And the next day, I got caught in a pretty bad snowstorm. That was first rain, so I was super soaked through my puffy raincoat.
Ooh.
And then it started snowing, and I knew that there was a youth camp that would host cyclists. This was on the, Oregon Outback Trail. The Timber Trail. It goes north to south.
Oregon Timber Trail, yeah.
Yep, single track oriented bikepacking route. So I was on there. I knew there was this camp. It was about 7 miles away. It's a lot of climbing. And I kept a really strong mental state, which is really, really important in that circumstance, because it was about 30 degrees and I was cold.
And you're by yourself?
I was totally by myself. There's no cell service, and I didn't activate my satellite phone yet, so it was a little nerve-wracking, but usually those things go all right. I knew there was a campground too, and I see a sign for a shelter, the Brandenburg shelter, half mile off trail. It's I don't know, my bike just went that way. It's all right, we're going this way, and it's snowing kind of sideways, but not super heavy. And I get up to the shelter, and you're at the back side of it, so you can't see the door. I'm this thing better be unlocked, otherwise I'm pretty screwed. And I cruise around the other side, and it's a three-walled shelter, and there's a wood stove in the middle of it.
I remember your video.
I remember this from your Instagram
and it was completely lined with dry wood. So I got super naked, got on the last pieces of dry clothing I had, and heated up a fire. And I dried all of my belongings.
You just proceeded to sauna the place out.
Dude, I was in a t-shirt. It was probably the scariest moment of the trip. Other than one run in a motel, gas station, convenience store.
So, what was your internal conversation like in those moments before you got to that shelter? What are you talking to yourself through? Do you remember some of those thoughts and what was going through your head? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty out there. You're trying to figure out if you want to stop and set up a tent and stay out in the cold, and just bundle up for the night and try and get warm. Pretty unmotivated to make food at that point too. But I knew there was a climb, and there was kind of pitter-pattery roller coaster to this campground. This was my backup resort. It was that borderline scared for your life kind of situation. Mm-hmm. But somehow those are the type 2.5 fun is always worth the story, and it's good to know that you can put yourself through that stuff and be all right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a scary one for sure.
So what's the motel one?
Oh, are you sure you want to know that one?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe I don't.
Is this like a Bates Motel story?
Dude, way worse.
So I'm intrigued. I definitely want to know now.
So I'm almost to Bend. I'm almost to Chemult, which is just south of Bend. And there ended up being a private road, so I detoured onto like the main road, which was the worst. But it was pretty hot out, and I needed a cold beverage and some snacks, and see a sign for market, new management. You know, I'm like, oh, sweet. I haven't seen anything in miles. I'm like, pull over here. Whispering Pines is the name of the market, but it's
sounds nice.
It's 8 units of a motel room. You know, you got a woman just door open. Like, smoking cigarettes. She's probably been there for 3 years, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I want to really go in there. I pull up to the door, and I'm like, I'll just turn around. I don't. This bad feeling about this place. And this guy comes out and goes, "Can I help you?" You know, I was pretty confused to see another human being there. It felt like. He's like, "Oh yeah, I was just looking for a bag of chips and a soda." You know, it's like, all right. And he just goes in another door and lets me in. And I was like, all right. So I walk in.
Is that code for like drugs?
I don't know. I was like, I
just need a bag of chips and soda. What kind of chips? Potato, Lay's? I got you. Come in this door.
Like, I walk in and it's the counter. This is, first of all, the room, the 2 rooms of the market is 2 hotel rooms with a wall blown out. It's just a makeshift market. And there's VHS, stacks right there.
Rentals?
Oh, yeah.
You could rent VHS tapes?
Oh, hundreds of them.
Whoa.
I know. And
would you just go back in time 25 years?
Yeah, it's quite a trip. And
it's Oregon, dude.
I turn and it's like self-standing shelving units in this place and like a roll-in fridge. It's very, very sketchy. And I'm like, oh, he's like, oh, the drinks are over here. You go first. I'm like, no way.
You go first.
I'm like, I'm walking in the corner and you're telling me to go first. I'm like, I might die like right now.
What's this guy look like? Do you have any teeth?
I mean, I don't want to like put people that shop at Walmart in a category, but it was like he had like some teeth. And
some teeth,
and just like a shirt that he probably hadn't washed in months, and
so he's like you.
Yeah, he
smelled.
Teeth, he smelled worse than me, which was the like. I didn't even think that was possible at that point. Like,
so did he get you a soda and some chips?
Yeah, so he corners me into the zone for getting a Dr. Pepper. I'm like, all right, and he's just like standing about 2 feet behind me. I'm like, this could be it,
You want a Dr. Pepper?
He's gonna shank you or something?
Reach in slowly. I'm like, all right, I'm good to go. So I'm like, all right, I'll just get that. He's like, oh, you wanted chips too, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I could use some chips. I did say that. So I get a bag of chips and I go over to ring out and goes, $12. I was like, okay. I was like, here's 15. I don't know, I'll leave. And I got the hell out of there.
So because I got to imagine you have pretty good like creep radar being on the road for as long as you have, and that one really creeped you out, huh?
Yeah, I still think about that a lot.
It sounds like your bike didn't even want to go in there.
No, it was not a good place, and the fact that it was called Whispering Pines did not help at all. It was just like,
what do you think? Like before you had this Whispering Pines experience, what came to mind when you thought of Whispering Pines?
Sounds like a retirement community.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Oh, it sounds like more like horror movie-esque to me.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it was the experience. I don't know.
Yeah.
So what's that thing called when people find water with the
witching?
With the witching.
Divining.
Divining.
Yeah.
Did you feel like your bike had a divining aspect to it on this trip, where it could lead led you to that shelter, but it tried to also lead you away from led you away from the peppering vines.
Yeah, I think I had it pointed the wrong way. Like it was upside down at one point, so I like recalibrate the bike after that experience at the hotel.
Did you have a name for your bike on this trip?
I named it Sunshine Daydream, and it kept the good vibes going pretty much the whole way up. It did point me in the right direction pretty much the whole summer.
That's awesome.
It was pretty wild. There's a lot of other small stories that came along in the travels. Yeah.
Was there any place along the way that along the trip that really stood out to you, like that left an impact and looking back on the trip where you're like, that was such a cool place, I have to go back there, that you hadn't been before?
I think the Olympic Peninsula in general, from Port Townsend to Port Angeles, all the way over to La Push. It was pretty magical. The people that were out there were so cool. Ralph Backstrom, who lives here in town, that runs Pacific Crest Coffee, lined me up with some of his college buddies. Actually, one college buddy, and I ended up meeting like 5 more of them just being in town and like randomly running into them. It was quite crazy. Definitely a small world, but I mean the contrast of ocean to hot springs to rivers to the Olympic Mountains and the lushness of it is pretty astonishing. It's pretty cool.
Nice, man. Yeah. What's the next trip have you been scheming your next adventure?
Yeah, you've been laying out some maps and
there's a couple ideas.
Looking at ideas.
Yeah, it's established routes, but I want to go over do the Great Britain Divide.
Great Britain Divide.
So bottom of England to the top of Scotland.
Oh, cool. That sounds rad.
Yeah.
It sounds like a drinking tour.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Lots of pubs.
Yeah, lots of pubs. Pubs and pints.
Pub life.
Yeah, I think that'll be the next one probably in a couple of years. But
cool.
It'd be cool to route another one. I would like to go Trans Am on gravel. I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, Trans Am.
That whole rail trail system that they kind of pieced together is pretty sweet.
Yep.
We ran into one veteran that was biking it. It was fully sponsored through an organization. We ran into him in Clay Ellum, and he said it was phenomenal. I mean, you're not climbing anything that's more than 4%.
Yeah.
It's a pretty fast trip, but you got to remember to go west to east. That way you got to tailwind the whole time.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
Whoever does east to west,
they're crazier than us all.
You seem to be more into these north-south or south-north trips.
Yeah. I think it's turned into this big exploration of the West, on the Divide I did Montana, corner of Idaho, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico. Now I just hit California, Oregon, Washington. And it was, Washington, it's awful. I would never go there again, but
yeah.
It's pretty cool up there, I will say.
Yeah.
I would definitely go back and could picture myself living there maybe for a stint of time. We'll see.
Nice, man. Yeah. And your Truckee Bike Packing Collective, right? That's the name of your bike packing group?
Yeah.
How's that been going?
It took a little hiatus this year.
Yeah.
I had some friends
took a road trip to Washington.
I had some friends help out, but there's some organization going into it.
Cool.
With routing and having presence with getting the word out and all that stuff. So it was kind of a heavy ask, and I had low expectations, but they got out for a ride or two, and cool. But I'm more than excited to fire that back up in 2024. So
yeah, I'd like to join you for a little soiree somewhere.
Bike pack glamping, yeah.
Totally.
Maybe we can get some Mind the Track listeners and posse together and go do some camping.
Totally.
Jake Mann, that'd be fun.
Go up to Whispering Pines. It'd be awesome.
Only if they have cheese there.
And Dr. Pepper.
I'll pass on the Whispering Pines.
Well, I think we're going to bring this one to a close.
Yeah,
Tom,
this
you
has
have
been
any
good.
closing thoughts or anything? Any closing questions?
No, just everybody keep their fingers crossed and doing the Crip Pow Walk dance.
Yeah.
And giving some shout outs to Euler. Let's make it snow.
Yeah, let's make it
I'm ready. All this bike talk. It's been cool to wrap up this year with the bike episode.
Yeah.
And when we come back from, I think, the holiday, we're going to be talking about skiing and snowboarding.
Let's sure hope
so. And all things snow. It's time. I think El Nino's finally going to kick in and make things interesting for us up here in Tahoe. So
yeah,
let's just keep thinking the positive POW thoughts.
Jake Mann, you got you skier or snowboarder?
Snowboard.
He's actually a ripping snowboarder.
I bet he is.
No, I don't know about that.
He's from Vermont, dude.
Pretty good.
Everybody from Vermont's gnarly on snow. Have you been out?
I got a day in at Boro.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. Different muscles than biking.
Yeah.
I remember that pretty quick.
Different.
I got hit a little bit of metal with the snowboard.
Did you
there.
some rails?
No, it's the bare minimums.
Yeah.
I get out of the comfort zone. Hit some jumps.
Cool.
But yeah, I'm excited for this season. I think it's going to line up pretty good. Snoop's saying the same, so.
Heard it from Snoop.
You heard it from Snoop first.
Yeah.
Well, happy holidays to you boys and everyone out there.
Yeah. Happy holidays to all the listeners, and thanks for listening to the show all year long. And we're gonna keep it going into the new year, and keep having rad guests, and keep sending those suggestions to us. We love to hear them, and we'd love to hear the feedback.
Definitely. Keep spreading the word.
Yeah.
A lot of people are sharing.
Yeah.
That's how it seems like the pod's getting out that way. A lot of people are just texting their friends and sharing it just simply that way, and it's getting it out there.
Totally.
So thanks.
Yeah. Jake Mann, thank you as always. For being our first repeat guest.
Thanks for having me. As
Good
always.
times catching up on your adventures, man.
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll have you again on a future episode. You got the radio voice and you got funny stories, so it's a good combo.
Can't thank you enough. Thanks for having me in your cozy living room here.
Yeah, the house of Kerswan Johnsonheimer.
That's right. Like a sign is in place.
I can't even say that.
You got to practice, Kerswan Johnsonheimer.
Oh, is that one word?
Two.
It's two.
You could in German it'd be one.
I think it's one word thing.
Well, thanks everyone for listening to episode number 28 of Mind the Track with our guest Jake Mann. It's been a great conversation, and we're glad that you have tuned into Mind the Track all year. If we don't see you by the end of this year, you'll definitely be seeing us and hearing from us the beginning of the new year. So have a great holiday, everyone. And until next time, get out there, get deep, and put your mind in the track.